The latest mass abduction of students in Kaduna State shakes schools, parents and students. What is the fate of education in Nigeria, which already has the highest number of out-of-school students worldwide?
Lawmakers in the United Kingdom to debate Nnamdi Kanu's repatriation today.
And also coming up is a review of today's papers, a preview of 2 events in history, and much more. We'll say good morning and thank you for joining us on The Breakfast on this very, very beautiful, cold, I think I can say cold, Wednesday morning here on Plus TV Africa. I am Osaogi Ogbon.
And I am Annetta Felix. Beginning with our first top trending story today, we know that the United Kingdom Parliament would debate Nnamdi Kanu's repatriation to Nigeria today, Wednesday, the 7th of July, 2021. The conversation about Nnamdi Kanu is not over, very far from over. His trial date is, much later this month. There's still lots of talks about, IPOB, his lawyers, his family, alleging that Nnamdi Kanu was actually abducted from Kenya and that there was no smooth, classy operation that was held. There was no repatriation. We had Ademola Akimbola on Off the Press a few days ago explaining that this is not a repatriation, it was a rendition. He explained that, So the controversy about Nnamdi Kanu's arrest is still a point of discussion. And now the UK has waded in because we know that Nnamdi Kanu was in fact traveling with his British passport. And we have a statement here. It's a document from the UK. It says, Lord Alton of Liverpool would ask Her Majesty's government what assessment they have made of 1, the alleged role of the government of Kenya in the detention and alleged mistreatment of Nigerian activist Nnamdi Kanu. Now, this is coming because Kanu's lawyer, Ifeanyi Ejiofor, had alleged that Nnamdi Kanu's special forces in Kenya had arrested, detained and tortured Nnamdi Kanu, and that's before handing him over to the Nigerian government days later. So this Lord Alton also said he would ask Her Majesty's government to basically determine the circumstances surrounding the transfer of Nnamdi Kanu to Nigeria against his will. And also, they would ask for assistance to be provided to him by the High Commission in Abuja. So I asked this question before on The Breakfast. What impact will the UK's involvement in Nnamdi Kanu's case and trial be? And it seems that it's still a very valid question because we're seeing more moves by the UK. They're sitting on this matter today, and we're going to see what exactly they resolve from that meeting at Parliament.
Well, let's also wait for the end of their Parliament discussions today and see what they come up with. I think I said it yesterday that I'm not sure exactly how much power they would have. In his case, he is Nigerian, he's also British, has dual citizenship. But, I think I also need to read a little bit more about international law to see if they have enough powers, if they have, enough rights as he is a British citizen to ask that he be freed, if there's anything like that is on the table, or they would only just question the role that Kenya played and the role that Nigerian officials also played. Did he have proper representation by the Nigerian embassy? Did he have proper representation by his lawyers? Was he moved back to Nigeria against his will, and some of all of that? So those are the questions that I believe that they would ask. But after those discussions are had, what next? Are they going to be asking that he be sent back to the UK? Are they going to be asking that they send a representative who stays or who stands for him as a British citizen here in Nigeria? I've also always mentioned that countries always would act based on their interests. Regardless of how our emotions are on certain issues, countries would always put their interests first.
So what do you think, the interest of the UK might be in Nnamdi Kanu's is it because he simply holds a UK citizenship? I
don't know if that is big enough. If you remember the WikiLeaks guy, and the controversies, and controversy surrounding his extradition. It took a while, but there was also some level of interest here and there, from the United States and from other countries that were somehow involved in the case. Same thing with Jamal Khashoggi, who was murdered in the Turkish embassy by Saudi Arabian hitmen or officials from the Prince of Saudi Arabia. There's also that, he is, of course, he was a writer for the Washington Post, so you'd expect that, American interest will be very, very strong there, because he, has some leverage in the United States. But how far did they go with it? Donald Trump basically just made a few statements, said he didn't think that the prince was involved or Saudi Arabia was involved, and made some very, very bland statements here and there, and that's where it ended.
But I think the circumstances there would have been different if Jamal Khashoggi was alive.
No, it's even worse that he was killed. He was murdered, and in a very, very gruesome manner.
I mean, what else can you do? The person's gone. So
no, yeah, it doesn't matter if you kill an American citizen wherever in the world. They would, represent, and they would, place sanctions if possible. They would take action. That you've killed an American citizen. It is different. It's even worse that the person is dead, whether he's a citizen or not. A person has been killed, has been murdered, and so for me it is worse. But at that point, the United States had to consider their relationship with Saudi Arabia, and that's what the bone of contention was then. Turkey, of course, was furious. The president of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, was very furious with the way that things played out. But the United States in the question here didn't seem to be very, very moved, or didn't seem to want to get involved, so not to tamper their relationship with Saudi Arabia. So it's pretty much, I feel, pretty much the same thing that will play out here. The UK's relationship with Nigeria, their interest in Nigeria, how much, do they want to tamper with? If the Nigerian government says, oh, this is our suspect and, would like you to back off, what's the UK going to do at that point? And that's the point that I'm trying to make. So they might question Kenya, they might, make certain statements, with regards to Kenya's involvement, but I don't know how much, involvement they would like, to have, and how much interest they really have in all of this. It is not expected that they would stay silent. So yes, they will make these statements, they will bring it up in Parliament, they will discuss it, but after that, what next?
It also makes me ask questions about where the loyalty of the UK lies in terms of, this divide, the Nigerian state and the separatist agitations for Biafra. We know about how the UK had extended asylum for members of the IPOB, even though they later went on to correct those statements on their website. Well, the fact that they put that out in the first place show that maybe they have some sympathy towards the IPOB and, totally in support of any group of person who want to break away from their state. We know how they had their own battles with Brexit. So maybe they're open to say, people should have the power of determination. So it also makes you ask, if the UK has to choose alliances between the IPOB and Nnamdi and Nigeria, it seems to be tending towards the IPOB. I mean, they're speaking in now and standing in now for Nnamdi Kanu. For Nnamdi Kanu to be such a big deal that it's going to be a subject to be debated at plenary today, questions there needs to be asked.
Yeah, I agreed, but it also is very dependent on the country you're speaking of. Does the Nigerian government seem like a government that would care to listen to whatever the UK, Parliament says? If they decide that they are going to fully be behind him and they're going to, take what steps are necessary, does the current Nigerian government seem to care that much? We've heard statements from Abubakar Malami and from the Minister of Information many times, kicking away or denouncing any other thing that any country in the world has to say, because Nigeria is a sovereign state, and so they would act as a sovereign state. So,
true, there's also that.
Yeah, so yeah, they will, make whatever statements, they will debate it in Parliament, but I'm not sure what happens next, right after that.
Okay, so, right after that, we're talking about the police in Nigeria. The spate of, kidnapping, abduction of school children doesn't seem like something that would leave, our political discourse anytime soon. And what's worse is the reaction of Nigeria's law enforcement agencies to parents who are grieving, parents who are mourning, parents who are demanding that Nigeria security agencies go in and rescue their children. I mean, we played this report yesterday about parents crying their hearts out and, saying that the police were shooting at them. I saw people on the floor. I have no idea if they were shot at, but parents, had carried basically the olive branch figuratively, but they carried, the stem of trees and stem of, with flowers, basically saying that they just want to protest, ask the government to rescue their children. They're not with arms. And if the federal government wants to basically clamp down on anybody, it should be terrorists. And, asking them to go to the bush to, met out their strong arm of the law on those terrorists and just let the parents be. So this situation, we've seen it happen time and time again. Remember when, I can't remember his name now, but one of the men, we had him on the breakfast, he was the father of one. He actually had 2 kids who were kidnapped at that time, and they had traveled all the way from the north to Abuja, and that's basically to demand that their children be released. So that's the video you're seeing there. We hope we can play that soundtrack for you. The parents basically asking that they simply want the release of their children and they should not be shot at. So why should the police be shooting at parents who are protesting for the release of their children?
Well,
it's absurd.
two points, that I would throw in here. The first one would be for the parents themselves. I remember growing up in Benin, and I don't think, and I'm not blaming them. This is absolutely none of their fault. But I would just quickly also mention it that I don't think, in today's Nigeria that any parent should willingly open their eyes and let their children go to any school in Kaduna State or in northern Nigeria in general. So if you decide to take that risk and believe that your children are safe in whatever school that they're going, then I'm not sure, because we've seen that the Nigerian government has not been able to fully protect these school children. So it's too much of a risk to let your children go to school in northern Nigeria today. And this is not calling for, schools to be shut down, but if that's where we are, then maybe those are steps that we need to take. That's one. And then second, the Nigerian police obviously has a lot of lessons that they need to learn with regards crisis management and with regards dealing with people who are aggrieved. We've heard stories of persons who went, to a police station or who were upset with, a certain case, losing a family member, and eventually still got shot by the same police who was meant to be defending them. We've heard stories like that before. So there needs to be, and it's one of the reasons, why the NSAS protest held, and some of the demands, some of the things that Nigerians expected would be the fallout of all the protesting in, 2020, October 2020, that the Nigerian police would understand that aside, funding the police better, aside training the police better, there has to be a lot of training with regards, the crisis management and the humane, aspects of policing in Nigeria. They seem to not have that. And sometimes you look at Nigerian police and wonder whether they are actually from Nigeria or they're dealing with the same issues that Nigerians are dealing with, because their reaction to protesters, their reaction to people who seem to be aggrieved with the government makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. I don't know if there's any human being that works with the Nigerian police force. Shout out to those people who say, oh, my dad has been a police officer, he's a good man. I don't care about you and your father. The human angle with regards to Nigerian police force seems to be completely missing, and it's sickening.
Yes. So yes, what you're seeing on your screen are basically videos of. Okay, we'll get more clarity on that, but we know that closely related to this particular incident is a bill that actually sitting now. Lawmakers are proposing a 5-year jail term for anyone who protests. So if this scales through, these parents who are protesting the release of their children would be in jail, right? That's what's, that's basically the meat of the story. And it was sponsored. So it was sponsored by Representative Emeka Chinedu Martins, representing PDP Imo. So he's basically proposing a 5-year jail term for unlawful protesters in the country. This is scaled through first reading at the House of Representatives. There's still a few more hurdles for this to jump, but if it does pass, if you protest that there is no light and you've not had light for the past 10 years, if you protest that the price of fuel in Nigeria is too expensive, if you protest that your kids are being kidnapped, you might go to jail. So what is the Nigerian government really saying to us? If you're not protecting us and you're asking us not to speak up about it, I don't really understand how you can then call this a democracy.
No, I also don't understand what is a lawful protest and an unlawful protest.
Exactly.
Where do you draw the line with which is lawful and which is unlawful? Nobody's going to be protesting good roads. No one is going to be protesting 24 hours electricity supply. No one is going to be protesting higher minimum wage. So what exactly would you describe as lawful? And that there is still a court ruling that allows Nigerians to protest without having to seek permission from anybody, from the police. I think it was Femi Falana who got that ruling a couple of years ago, with the same government that is in power now. So I'm not sure what exactly they mean by lawful and unlawful protest. And maybe they need to explain, a little better what exactly they mean by lawful. So who is a lawful protester? Is it those who are protesting pro-Buhari? Are those the lawful protesters? And then the ones who are
wearing
Brahmos are unlawful protesters? Is it the ones who come as counter protest that we always see that they give 500 naira, 1,000 naira to protest? Those are lawful protesters. And then the ones who are complaining about things that they are dealing with in society are suddenly unlawful protesters. It's a shame. I don't know who that guy is. Shame on him.
Let's take a break.
I really need to calm down.
Yes, we need to take a break here. Mr. Ademola Akimbola, publisher of the Podium Media, is standing by to help us make sense of the stories making headlines. Do stay with us.